Hey everybody, I'm Michael Andersen, and this is Fantasy Avenue, where each week we talk about everything you need to know in the world of fantasy football. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Avenue, your road to fantasy football victory. This week, we will be talking about wide receivers. Now, with the season upon us, we're looking for the best wide receivers either on the waiver wire, draft, trade. These guys are the guys you want on your team. So let's get it right into it here. This is the flashy position of fantasy football. Year after year, this list changes. So the top 10 is constantly changing with new guys pushing to the top. Another deep class. This is one of the deepest classes of the wide receivers I've ever seen, and it's just way deeper than the running backs. So that serves well for being patient during drafting and even during trading. Like, you will get the guys that you need. You'll find the diamonds in the rough way down the list, like just go down the list a little bit. Juju Smith-Schuster or Jerry Jeudy, guys that are lower on my list but could absolutely boom with their new teams. So yeah, let's just get right into my top 16 list. Starting with number 1, I've already talked about him a bit on the top 10 list, but we have Cooper Kupp. It's pretty obvious. He's the reigning champion, the triple crown winner. If you don't know what that means, it is the leader in touchdowns, receptions, and receiving yards for wide receivers. So he is the king of wide receivers last season. And a main thing with wide receivers in general is that volume is king. So the more volume a guy gets, the more ability he has to make plays, obviously. And being a guy like Cooper Kupp, he is their whole offense, right? He is like a running back like Derrick Henry on the Titans. He is their whole offense. Everything goes through Cooper Kupp. And for that reason, you'll know that your wide receiver, some wide receivers, a good game is 5 catches. Cooper Kupp will get 15 targets at least a game, which is so much volume and so much chance for a good, 10 catch, 150-yard outing. So I think he has to be the number 1 on anybody's list. Number 2, we have Justin Jefferson. Same thing, good volume. Coming into year 2, he should be, or year 3, excuse me. There's no reason for a slump with a new coach on the Vikings. There's just a lot of hype around him, and he's shown time and time again that he is a superstar. So we'll see how he does. I predict a lot of big games. But, I mean, if defenses can't stop him, they can't stop him. You can't game plan Justin Jefferson. You put your best corner on him, and he'll run right by him for an easy touchdown. It's that. Justin Jefferson is that guy. And then he'll gritty on you in the end zone. So I would say Justin Jefferson has to be, I think he's the most hyped guy. Cooper Kupp is the sure thing, but Justin Jefferson is on the up and up. Number 3, I have Devontae Adams. We talked about him on the top 10. He could have as much production with Derek Carr as with Rodgers due to the fact that their old college connection, right? They had an explosive connection, him and Derek Carr in college. And so even though there's a step down between quarterbacks, there's a step up between, he's not going to a brand new team, right? He's going to a new team, the players on the team, there's familiarity, and that poses really well for possibly the best receiver in the league. Number 4, we have Jamar Chase, another crazy hyped dude. I don't know. He's a risky pick because that Bengals team last year was a 1-year crazy thing that just came out of nowhere. So there's always a little bit of a chance for a sophomore dive. But I think with Joe Burrow, Jamar, it's the same thing with Devontae Adams and Derek Carr. That connection is so strong that there's no way targets aren't going to go in Jamar's direction. Number 5, Stephon Diggs. So these are wide receivers outside of the top 10. So I don't think I've ever talked about these guys. So yeah, let's get into it. Stephon Diggs. Once again, looking for consistency with Diggs, right? He's with him and Josh Allen, they're at the forefront of the best offense in the NFL. And he has a little bit less of a crowded wide receiver corps this season as well. So he's like the I don't know. I wouldn't call him the engine of the strongest train, right? That would be Josh Allen. But he's that front wheel on the strongest train. Yeah, let's give him that. Let's give him the front wheel. Von Miller could be the back wheel. He's the front wheel. I like that. So yeah, look for consistency, Diggs. He's a baller. Number 6, CD Lamb. Probably the riskiest. Like he's our first risk on this list, but I love him. I've drafted him in my leagues. I love him. Without without Amari Cooper and with Gallup hurt, he's the only real receiver on the Cowboys, and all the Cowboys do is throw the ball. Like they just throw. You know there's going to be volume headed towards CD's way every single game. So that, like, just based on volume alone, I think he could be top 10. And then based on the talent, I have him I think his ceiling is top 5. His ceiling is beating out Stephon Diggs and Jamar Chase. Number 7, Mike Evans. He is a touchdown machine, and he's always a safe pick. Like, he doesn't have fluctuating touchdowns. He scores. And he's super consistent. He's kind of like, I don't know. He's up in the consistency range of one of the top guys on this list, probably. He always seems to get like 90 catches, 1,000 something yards, good 10 touchdowns. He will always be a quality wide receiver, especially with Tom throwing him the ball. So another, we have a risky pick with CD and a bit of a safe pick with Mike Evans. Number 8, Deebo Samuel. He's one of the guys who, at the start of the episode, I was talking about how guys can just push their way to the top of the list randomly. Deebo was completely that. He's definitely going to be a boomer best pick, depending on his usage, honestly, because he's shown he doesn't really like all the running, right? It's got to be hard on him. But, I mean, if they use him like they did last year and continue to use him, he could be, like, minus another year by Cooper Kupp leading the wide receivers in every statistical category. If that didn't happen, then Deebo would have been the best receiver in the NFL fantasy-wise. So I believe he could be a top 3 guy, or he could be outside the top 10, but I think there's a calculated risk with him that makes it worth it to pick him. Like that dual threat, there's not a single guy in the league who does that. So there's definitely a calculated risk for him, and I'm all for calculated risks. I love to take a chance. Sometimes it doesn't work out for me. Sometimes I get last place in the league because all I do is take chances, but sometimes I breeze to the finish line. So we'll see. He's a risky pick, but I like him. Number 9, Tyreek Hill. So both him and Samuel are guys kind of coming out of their best years or year and are now facing some uncertainties. For Hill, I can't see any way that his play is better than last year's just with quarterback, but he's still the fastest guy on the field every single time he sets foot on the field, basically. So that alone, as long as Tua can get the ball within 10 feet, Tyreek Hill can run under it, Tyreek Hill will be running down top speed, right? The ball's a little overthrown. Oh, and he just finds the extra gear. Easy touchdown. He's like the most electric player on the field. So there's always faith, even with a quarterback that might not be amazing, Okay, number 10. So after those 9, there's a pretty big drop-off in sure things. Even though there is some risks, this is where it starts kind of fading off into level 2. Whereas the running backs at the same level are fading off into level 5. Sure things go from sure things to, this goes from sure things to good players. A.J. Brown is my top good player, let's say, at number 10. So he's risky. He's going to a new team, but he's got a quarterback connection with Hurts, and there's some uncertainty and there's some certainty, right? There's going to be connection. There's going to be points. How many points, how he's going to be used in the offense is unsure. So he's a risky pick, but he's electric. He's he was coming off this offseason pretty mad at the Titans, and I think he's got some stuff to prove, and I think he will prove it. Number 11, we have Mikey Williams. He's got a similar situation to T. Higgins, who's the next on the list. He's up and coming, but behind the traditional number 1 wide receiver on his team. I think Mike is different because his red zone targets. And with an aging guy in front of him. So he gets so many more red zone targets just because of his size. And Keenan Allen, who is ahead of him historically, is aging and doesn't have his size and speed. So I believe Mike Williams could easily take the Chargers' number 1 role, and I have a lot of faith in that. I've drafted him in a few leagues with that faith. Number 12, T. Higgins, I don't have as much faith. He's a risky boom or bust pick. But, I'm going to give myself some credit. Hold up. Yeah. I'm going to give myself some credit for not overrating him. So many lists I've seen have T. Higgins in the top 5, with Jamar Chase, and that's just you don't want to take a risk here. All the online things, everything is going to be pointing at him to be super good, and I do think he will, but there's a pretty big risk. So just don't overdraft. There's good value for a good choice, right? Good risk for reward. I don't think he'll pass Chase, but his talent and how the Bengals offense works, I do believe there could be 2 top 12 receivers on that team. Now we're moving to number 13, DJ Moore. And this is a pick, looking back while I made my list, I'm not so sure about this. I'm not so sure about these final 4. I could honestly have Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy in front of these guys. I put DJ Moore because he's shown year in and year out that he can be good without great quarterback play. But now with Baker Mayfield, I'm not so sure he'll do better than Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton with Russell Wilson. I'm just not so sure. But we'll keep it. We'll keep the list how it is right now. Number 13, DJ Moore. He is a crazy underrated wide receiver, and he's so consistent. The thing with him is I believe he's a wide receiver 1 in a wide receiver 2 situation. His ceiling is wide receiver 1, but the Panthers team is only giving him a wide receiver 2 situation. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out. And I'll get to the other guys that are in that same situation a little bit later. Number 14, we've talked about him a bit, Keenan Allen. He's on the decline, and his volume, while it's not amazing, is still good on one of the strongest offenses in the league. So he might be transitioning towards a wide receiver 2 role, but as I said with T. Higgins, there can be 2 top guys on one team, and I think there's a chance. This list gets kind of shaky towards the end in terms of how you want to rank each of these players, but Keenan Allen will be good this year. Number 15, Deontay Johnson. He's pretty forgotten about, even though he gets crazy volume, 3rd in targets last year. And he will play well no matter who the quarterback on the Steelers is. But again, him over the Broncos wide receivers, I don't know. All these guys are tough to rate. Number 16, this is the last wide receiver on this official list, Jerry Jeudy. I believe he could boom into the top 10. And it's a complete prove-it year for Jeudy. But he's getting hyped pretty substantially. And it's going to be, I think, a tight fight between DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, Jerry Jeudy, and Cortland Sutton. 4 guys coming into different quarterback situations. 4 guys who have played well. Jerry Jeudy's probably played the worst out of any of them in terms of best overall year. But he's also the most hyped, ability-wise with his route running. I think it's those 4 guys who should really contend for the last spot in the top 10 of wide receivers. I think they could all reach it there. Again, my last thing about this list in general, you don't want to be picking these guys over players like Mike Williams. No, as much as they are exciting, it's exciting for DJ Moore, consistency-wise, exciting for Deontay Johnson after what he showed last year. There's no sure thing as much as Mike Williams in terms of target and usage. So, yeah, take it how you want. Now let's move quick into sleepers and undervalued before we end this episode up. Our first one, I'll just keep it quick because we already talked about him, is Cortland Sutton. Judy's being more hyped, but honestly, in my leagues, I had a choice in one of my leagues to pick Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy. They were ranked, I'll throw a random number out, but it was 120 and 121 overall. So the app had them ranked exactly the same, and they were both available. And I went with Cortland Sutton. I know Judy's the more hyped, but Sutton has proven that he can be good without good quarterback play. He's proven that he can be crazy good at catching the ball. He's big, he's physical, he's a great blocker, so he's on the field a lot because they use him in a lot of situations. I believe he could be the DK Metcalf of the Broncos with Russell Wilson at quarterback. So, and I think he's a major sleeper with his counterpart Jerry Jeudy getting more hype. Another sleeper is Brandon Cooks. He's always seemingly looked at as just unexciting. Like, he's an unexciting player on an unexciting team. But he is the model of consistency, and someone has to get all the targets in Houston, right? Someone's got to dominate the target share. I don't think it can be anybody but him. So while he's not exciting, if you see his list at the end of a draft, or his name at the end of a draft list, it's always a good pick. He's always a good bench player or flex player who will get you good points on a bad team. Another sleeper, I have quite a bit of sleepers for wide receivers because of just how deep this list is. I didn't want to not include any of these guys. Another sleeper, Allen Robinson. He's kind of the new Robert Woods of the Rams. Robinson is not a guy that many look to as an exciting player, kind of like Brandon Cooks, but he should be a viable backup and a good number 2 option behind Cooper Kupp. I think he could have good production in that offense. So he's not exciting, but he's a name you want to keep your eye on. Another name to keep your eye on, this because of injury, is Chris Godwin. When healthy, I think he can be a top 16 guy, another guy to pair with Mike Evans. So keep your eyes out because he's coming into the season with some injury concerns. Which is really like diving his name down on the draft boards. But when healthy, he is a great pick. My final sleeper, I mentioned his name, is Juju Smith-Schuster. Anybody who doesn't believe that Patrick Mahomes' new number 1 wide receiver won't do at least well, they're crazy. He's not going to be Tyreek Hill, and he's not going to outperform Travis Kelce. But I do believe he could be back. He could go back to the Juju that fans loved, right? With the Antonio Brown, Chase Claypool area. I do believe he could be back to that level of production. Let's move quick into bust before we end this episode off. Once again, thank you for joining. Busts/overrated players in the wide receiver category. My number 1 is DK Metcalf. Now, these are not guys who are going to do bad, but I think who are just getting drafted way too high, and you could get way better value. So he's a guy that fans look like in awe, right? He's completely jacked. Like, he's got crazy hair. He's one-handed catches. He's the fans guy. And I think that makes him have poor value because fans see his name and they want him. But it's just going to be really hard for him to do as good as he ever did with Russell Wilson with his quarterback situation. I'm not ruling him out, but I'm just saying don't draft DK Metcalf. I believe don't draft DK Metcalf over guys like Jerry Jeudy or DJ Moore this year. It's just his ceiling is so much lower than it has been, and people will be reaching. So just don't be one to reach for the names. Another guy, Amari Cooper, his hype was real coming into this year until Deshaun Watson's suspension. So for now, I'm just going to stay away from probably every Browns receiver. There's too much uncertainty with quarterback play, and he is a big name. He is super talented, but there's just a lot of uncertainty. And in such a deep class, you don't need uncertainty. There's no point in risking it all for a guy like Tony Pollard, who may or may not get all the carries he deserves, right? In a wide receiver field, go for a Juju Smith-Schuster with a lot of upside. My last bust/overrated player is Hunter Renfrow. It'll be nearly impossible for Hunter to do what he did last year. His route running is crazy. He's going to get touchdowns, but his volume, his overall yardage on just 3rd and 8, I think those balls are going to go to Devontae Adams or Darren Waller every single time. It's unfortunate. I think he's an unfortunate last round flyer who could be on some teams if you put him on a team. I don't know, the Titans. There's very little true wide receiverness on the Titans. I think Tannehill would pair really well with his short route running ability. It's just hard that he's the number 3 on a team with 2 guys that can explode the field. So yeah, that's my wide receiver list. Thank you for tuning in. We'll have, as the season kicks off, we'll have in-depth analysis and kind of who you want to look out for in the weeks ahead. So for now, stay tuned. Thank you for tuning in to Fantasy Avenue, and I will see you next time.